Okay, we're now being joined by the Special Advisor to the President on Social Investment, Miriam Uwais. Very warm welcome to Newsnight.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just ask you straight. I mean, 63% multi-dimensional poverty, that translates to 133 million. This administration is outgoing with this poverty level in the country, and the pledge was to remove 10 million Nigerians each year. Tell us, have you been able to achieve that? 10 million Nigerians out of poverty?
Well, the challenge is the rate of reproduction. The population is growing much faster than the economy is. That's part of the problem. But I think in terms of percentages, in terms of context, how Nigeria is growing, the numbers have been managed. Because the number of people that have been impacted by different poverty alleviation programs have, at least when I was in the social investment programs, I know we impacted on over 40 million Nigerians. And
it does not seem to be helping to take, 40 million Nigerians with that kind of impact, at least if you say 2 persons each. From the 40 million, 40 times 2 would be 18 million would have been taken out of poverty. But it's still,
yeah. So I'm saying...
But it's getting steeper.
It's getting steeper because Nigerians, the more and more Nigerians are growing, and it's growing really fast. The numbers of people that are growing, and unfortunately, it is the people at the bottom of the pyramid that are growing much faster. The elite are having 2 children and 3 children, and they have the funds to ensure that they have a good education, they have good health care. But it's not just the federal government. We must be looking also at the state governments, which is where actually the responsibility for improving our human capital indices lies.
Right.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting that you've talked about the people at the bottom of the ladder being most impacted by this. And that brings me to my question with regards to, they've been able to find a nexus between poverty and illiteracy.
Yeah.
And I do know that this administration, in all that was spent, looking at the 3.5 trillion so far in about 7 years by this administration to alleviate people out of poverty, education was high on that list. So talk to us about the specific intervention that has been done by this administration, to really get more people, especially the out-of-school children, out of poverty.
So let me just say one thing, 3.5 trillion is what was budgeted, but the amount that has been released is not nearly half of that.
What, 500 billion
yearly?
Every
year.
Exactly.
I know the first year,
it's about that.
The first year, it was 500 billion.
Right.
What was released when I was in office for that first year was 18% of that amount.
18 or 80%?
18% of that amount. So it all depends on how much is released for you to do it. There is a budget and the money should be released, but it depends on how much is released. The next year, it was 36% of that amount that was released. So it's not the entire amount that is released. I don't know what has happened subsequently from 2019 to date in terms of those 4 social investment programs that were mentioned, the school feeding programs, but I can talk about the out-of-school children, which is what I supervise now.
Right.
It has to go beyond just enrollment. We have a lot of challenges, and a lot of them relate to insecurity, which has really prevented or been a big hindrance to children going into school. There's also the issue of infrastructure, the dearth of teachers. All of those issues are soft issues. Unfortunately for us, a lot of public officials, when they get elected into office, they prefer to see the tangible things. They want to see the buildings rather than how to improve or measure performance, how to measure training, whether or not children are actually coming in, whether there's an improvement in results, because those are not things you can point out and say, this is what I did in my time. Right? And it's a structural issue. In 4 years, you can point to a building and say, this school was built in my time. And you can boast about it. But as an elected official, you can't say that, in a 4-year term, it takes 3-4 years to measure improvement. So these are softer issues that have somehow slipped through the cracks. Even for the private sector, what we see is they want to see returns on investment. Sharp. So what I'm saying is a lot of these other issues have somehow compounded our problems.
And overshadowed.
So you build a really nice school in a poor community, unless you address the softer issues, poverty, the children will still go with the father to the farm. They will go hawking. The school will remain empty.
So the challenges are enormous.
Yes,
and
definitely.
the achievements, can't really be anything to write on from your submission.
No,
you get the point?
I didn't say that.
From your submission, if, for example, releases were not even up to 50% of what is budgeted.
Yes, I don't know what happened after 2019.
Is what I'm saying. Even let's use the period that you were there.
Yes.
If you look at the indices, I mean, you were struggling.
Yes.
The program
in
its entirety are still struggling till now.
But you forget that it's not just those social investment programs that existed for poverty alleviation. There are a host of
the
programs.
Empower, the traders, money, and the rest. We don't
even states have their own poverty reduction programs.
We are looking at government.
The Ministry of Labor.
We are looking at the federal government now, because that is one big plan.
That's the mistake we make. Improving human capital indices, primary healthcare, primary education, children, all of that is at state level. What the federal government can do, and which it has been striving to do, is to coordinate, to ensure standards are there, to ensure that we share learnings. So this is what we're doing with the out-of-school children thing. We call it the at-risk children's program. The states have to invite us, because it is their responsibility, it is their mandate under the Constitution to ensure children go to school. But the way we've seen it unfold is that these numbers have increased. So the federal government, according to UNESCO, we're now 20 million children out of school. So the federal government decided to create a platform that will ensure that children are mentored in the communities. So beyond enrollment, this child has enrolled, somebody has to be there that appreciates the value of education to ensure that that child remains in school, right? And so what the At-Risk Children's Program has been doing is engaging young people who don't have jobs, but who are resident in the communities. So they speak the language, they understand the culture. They are the ones that are trained across about 7 pillars. This include foundational literacy and numeracy skills based on a current skills needs assessment on what is beneficial, not what is popular, right? There's a difference. And then climate change, agriculture, sports, even against substance abuse. But the states tell us who is vulnerable in their state.
Okay, so how many states do you have?
Right now, we're just going into the 9th state.
The 9th state, and this administration is almost out of office. So, but at the end of it, it's a good thing that government is a continuum.
Yes.
And of course, with that bill being signed by the Senate, it means that, this social intervention program should not end with the Buhari administration. But my question to you right now is, despite all of these things looking good on paper with regards to all of the interventions that, and how much has been spent, the truth is Nigerians are still poor. Looking at the data, 63%.
There is no country in the world
there's no country
that
in the
doesn't
world.
have poor people.
Some say, what has been
But I'm not
done.
saying it's acceptable. It's not
the
acceptable.
truth is, we're trying to. The question is, where is the gap really? Because if you look at how much has been spent and all the programs that this administration says it has put in place, and the fact that we're still seeing high rate of poverty. So where is the gap? What is missing?
So I explained to you this issue about the softer issues being trivialized and belittled as against the tangible issues. So we have buildings with no children in them, right? And apart from that, I was taking you through the At-Risk Children's Program. Each of those youth is given at least 50 children to mentor, to monitor, and to report back on why. We need to be more strategic about why those children are not in school.
In fact, I was just going to ask you that strategy.
Yes.
What would you be advising the incoming administration on how to, reduce poverty?
And the areas they should
There
prioritize.
are 2 different things.
Yeah.
we're talking about out of school children, or we're talking about poverty?
Well,
Yeah, they
it's,
go
I mean,
hand
they
in
go
hand.
hand in
No.
hand.
The out of school children
would have
is
thought-
a component
Yeah.
Right.
of the poverty issue. The
Right.
poverty issue is much larger.
It is much larger,
Yes,
and
yes.
you find that the out-of-school children are embedded in that poverty, and that's why they don't ever
So that's
go
why
to
I said
school.
it's a component.
Yeah.
There's so many other issues that actually come together to
So
be part of
basically,
the poverty
redressing
thing.
the out-of-school
Children. That is
issue.
what this is looking to our future.
Yeah.
Ensuring that our children are well nourished. So we're going to be feeding those children in the hubs. Every state is setting up hubs in the communities. In some states, they have over 300 hubs. They actually train the children there. In a state that, we're in 9 states, as I said. The first state we're in, already about over 3,600 children have indicated that they want to go back to school. Now these young people are negotiating with the parents because you're battling so many things to let those children go back to school. You have to incentivize the parents. You and I are the products of the decisions that our parents took on us, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
We didn't have a choice as to what school would go, or even if we would go to school, we didn't know anything about it. Right now we have parents who, for one reason or the other, don't want their children to go to formal schools, right? And this is where we have these large numbers. So we have to find a way of incentivizing them, getting them to understand that it is important. We can't just say they must go back to school, because already our prisons are full of people. We can't
Right.
lock them up. There has to be a way of us engaging the various stakeholders, ensuring that we share the learnings. So we have a lot of development partners, we have private sector helping us to support the children to become productive. For us, it's important for the children to become productive.
Yes,
so this is
indeed.
why we're doing skills also, and we're working with the Board for Technical Education, we're working with NDLEA, we're working with everyone that is interested
All
in ensuring-
stakeholders
yes,
that
all
can
stakeholders.
redress the
Yes,
imbalance and
yes.
We're
the
looking
poverty
forward to
level
more
and the-
states being a part of that program, because 9 out of 36 and the FCT quite poor, if you ask
Yeah,
me.
I made a presentation
Mariam
to NEC,
Uwais-
and
Mariam
only 9 have
Uwais-
called us.
Mariam Uwais, Special Advisor to the President on Social Investment. Thank you so much for
Thank you for
joining us
Thank
tonight
you.
and, of course, helping us understand what is being done to address the poverty levels in the country.